Trump is effectively echoing what Rubio says the other show. God damn it.
For some reason, one of the two parties makes it very difficult. We're just going to say you're foolish, you're fools, you're horrible people, and we're going to just take a pass. But hopefully, we won't have to do that. And Marco is right in saying we want to see it end. Think of it. Every day, a lot of people are being killed, as we talk about, as they play games. So we're not gonna take that, and we'll see. I think we have a good chance of solving the problem, however.
Are you prepared to walk away completely from these efforts and these talks?
Well, I don't want to say that, but we want to see it end.
They're doing construction upstairs. I'm sorry, Andrii. I'm sorry, audience. I don't have any power over that. This is deeply frustrating. Give me a take on that. Is that the point? Let it collapse because he doesn't believe Europe or Zelensky would sign a deal.
I think it's the U.S. is trying to, as Trump made the greatest effort in the last years with the U.S. politics globally to make peace right now in Ukraine. He wanted to make peace in his first term. He was trying to meet with Putin, and remember all those meetings where with the impeachment on the side, Trump and Putin trying to negotiate, so this war would never happen. The Democrats, the deep state, never let him do that. So for him right now, he understands they're going to go right now. They're negotiating with Russia. They're going to negotiate what they need to negotiate with Russia on everything else. If Ukraine's going to be left alone on the side, they're going to continue negotiating with Russia on what they need to on Arctic and Latin America and Asia, but Ukraine's going to be left aside. If this sabotage by the Europeans, by Zelensky continues, because everybody understands Zelensky and the Europeans will not be able to continue this war without the U.S. support. Thank God the U.S. is not giving more finances for this war at this time, and Trump and Speaker Johnson announced about this, that the U.S. is never going to vote for any more financial aid to Ukraine, because this money, first of all, is getting stolen. Second of all, it's leading to bloodshed, but nobody's winning. There's no win situation for the West in this right now. Russia has the priority on the ground. They're moving in fast. They're moving forward really, really fast in the south and the north. If they need to move in faster, they will. The problem is they're just, as Trump said, they're trying to save people's lives. They don't want to destroy everything. Like it's right now, total destruction in Gaza and Palestine. So this is right now. If the U.S. does this, and at one point and leaves Ukraine alone, I think it will be for the good sake of Ukraine that it's going to be left alone. So for Zelensky, because he'll have to flee. He would have to flee Ukraine because he will have no support of the West. The Europeans, yes, it's support, but the people inside Ukraine will eat him alive, the politicians. And we spoke about a neutral candidate. I spoke about this also a couple of weeks ago with, I think, on your show and also on Rick Sanchez's show about Timoshenko being as the person who can be the neutral candidate for the time being before the elections happen, after Zelensky flees Ukraine. But that's the case that has been talked on the table. So this may be a whole deal path for Trump administration to let Zelensky understand that he's going to be alone, and he will be alone in this. And I think that's what's going to happen. If Zelensky will not agree to the peace deal what Trump wants, he will be left alone, and Zelensky will have to flee Ukraine after that within the next couple of weeks.
I'm sorry. There was no announcement that they were going to be doing that. I'm sorry.
No
I want to get your take on this, and I want to get your take on, there was another piece in the New York Times where they effectively said that part of Russia's that they wanted was denazification, and they interpreted that as getting rid of Zelensky. And they're effectively, this is what Trump is effectively offering. Look, 5 regions, go to Russia, no NATO, period. I guess the question becomes, Europe is doing something different. And it's almost as if Europe is trying to kill whatever deal Trump is trying to get. And they're trying to kill that deal. It seems that Trump is like, okay, they're not going to sign on. Zelensky's not going to sign on. I'm willing to walk and let it collapse.
Look, we have to understand that the Europeans, for them, this war is a savior for all those global elites that are in power. They can use this war to have an enemy that they use, like Russia, that this is an enemy, that we continue this war. We have an enemy that's going to work inside Europe. We have to fight this enemy. We need to stay in power. We, the globalists, etc., etc. As soon as this war ends, they have nothing to work upon. Their economy is in full recession. I'm talking about largest countries like Germany and France. So they have nothing to hold on to. So they need this war to hold on to power, the same as Zelensky. They have the same puppeteers as Zelensky had, the globalists, the deep state, Macron, Merz, Starmer, Zelensky. They have the same people who own them from the globalist rule. So this is unfortunately the situation. That's why the globalists need to continue this war because they need this enemy Russia. They're trying to use this war to make money on this war, try to stay in power for their people to stay in power around Europe. Because when this war ends, Europe is going to start falling apart. The
I think
EU,
Europe is already
NATO.
falling apart. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
the fact
is,
that
but
Marine Le
please,
Pen gets into
please,
the position, Gergescu, the AfD in Germany, these people were radioactive like 10
yeah,
years ago, 5 years ago.
but it is. I'm saying physically may fall apart, and that's what they are all afraid of. Look at Slovakia, Hungary. They might leave EU and NATO. Turkey might leave NATO after this conflict because NATO is useless in the situation. They showed the aggressiveness of NATO, not just a safety organization, security organization, but it's an aggressive military organization. And if Turkey leaves and Hungary leaves and Slovakia leaves, it's done, finished. It's all gonna just crumble. So this is what it's going to lead to. That's what they're still trying to hold on to this war. Second of all, Zelensky right now, he's done. He's illegitimate. He's done as a president, and the West understands this, so they cannot deal with him right now at this point. So right now, what Europe wants, they just don't want to end this war. They want to keep you coming to Ukraine, use Ukraine territory, divide it into their own parts and have control over those parts. We saw those maps where France, UK, Germany wanted to take over different parts of Ukraine. They don't want Russia to come in there and have those territories, even though it's Russian territory. Ukraine was part of Russia for more than 350 years, and plus more than 1,000-year history of united of us being one nation, one people before. So we have a total history backing us up with all this, with Ukraine and Russia, and they don't want this to happen. Russia is not just invading Ukraine; they're fleeing. They're freeing those people because those people were Russian speakers who go to the church, the Russian church. We have our patriarch, like the Pope is sitting in Vatican for the whole world. Our patriarch is sitting in Moscow. Historically, that was the case. We had our patriarch in Kiev 1,000 years ago. He fled to Moscow after one of his right hand man got killed 1,000 years ago, and he fled to Moscow. Since then, he's there. That's historically how he was. This is our history. This is our church. We cannot have a different church made by Hillary Clinton, Pompeo, the OC church, which is right now in Ukraine, so trying to be a division between real Orthodox and the people who were bought off. So this is what Ukraine is. They're trying to destroy Ukraine from within, make it a Somalia, use it to make more money, sell weapons, organs, human trafficking. That's what they did in Latin America. This is what they're doing today in Ukraine. But we will never let that happen. Kiev should also be freed and also all denazified from everything else because people like me and other people who want peace, want to just see normal Ukraine, normal life. They cannot come back because we're going to get killed by the Nazis on the ground in Ukraine. We cannot go to our church if we even come back to Ukraine because not only are we going to get killed, we won't be even let into our church because it's being right now destroyed by the Kiev Zelensky regime. It's closed down. Churches have been captured and closed down. They're not even used. I cannot go to our holy place. That's the situation on the ground in Ukraine. I cannot buy a Russian book by Lev Tolstoy, War and Peace, because it's banned in Ukraine. But you can buy Mein Kampf in Kiev. That's what the situation on the ground is. That's what they need to understand what's happening under Zelensky, Poroshenko, and all that crowd. They made it happen. They made a Nazi Ukraine together with Newland, Clinton's, Pompeo's, the CIA, and the U.S. military intelligence. And this needs to stop. And Trump can stop it really fast. And people can stop dying really fast. And I believe in Trump that he can do it.
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something else while I have a moment before. God, this is frustrating to me. It's sort of like nobody's business. This clip about the mineral deal. Give me your take on this deal. I feel like this is effectively rape. And I know some people may take issue with it. he is effectively trying to take all of these resources, almost as if Ukraine is a colony. I'm going to play this.
Well, we have a minerals deal, which I guess is going to be signed on Thursday, Scott, next Thursday, soon. And I assume they're going to live up to the deal, so we'll see. But we have a deal on that. No, I have no comment on that. I have no idea. That's
The first time this went through, there was a freak out in the White House by Zelensky. But Trump is saying, you owe me $100 billion. They've lowered the amount. But he's effectively getting control of all of the resources, even though they're calling it a mineral deal. Is that really okay? Like, are you really, like, as a Ukrainian, looking at that, do you look at that and think to yourself, hey, that's a great deal? Or do you look at it as Donald Trump is trying to take advantage, almost in the way a mob is trying to take advantage?
No, you have to understand. I'm not trying to protect Trump, even though I support him, or trying to save Zelensky or anybody else. Ukraine sold off long before this mineral deal. Ukraine sold out to BlackRock, to the deep state 10 years ago when the coup in Maidan happened, the second coup. The first coup happened in 2004. That's when it partially sold out. Then, 10 years ago, it totally sold out. The elites, everything else in Ukraine. I was there. I was in the government. I was after Maidan. It came in. I saw how it happened. So today, to whine that Ukraine is being milked by somebody in Washington, it was understandable that's going to happen. The United States is going to save its face. Unfortunately, Ukraine has no sovereignty.
I know,
Ukraine
but I agree with you. But I feel like they were pushed into this war.
Ukraine was used. The elites sold out in Ukraine. I remember talking to people like Poroshenko, people who were head of intelligence of Ukraine. They were looking how to sell off to the Americans, looking to get a U.S. passport and sell out to them. This is people in the U.S. and Ukraine government who had millions of dollars and were looking how to sell off, not to use that money to save Ukraine, which they stole from Ukraine, but use that money to lure it out of the country, save themselves, save their families, use Ukraine into this war, and now they're going to complain that Trump wants to take something from them. And we talked about this. Ukraine having this deal on the table needs to understand Trump needs to save America's face in this, right? Ukraine should have done if it was a sovereign, independent state with a mind, not a clown in the head of state, and people who are not sold out to the British intelligence or to the West, like Yermak and everybody else, and not on cocaine, would have done. So look, this is what U.S. is offering us. We cannot get that deal. We understand we're not sovereign. We cannot do anything right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to negotiate with Moscow. Let them renegotiate the deal on the minerals with Washington, because they have what if they can offer anything with the U.S. We'll make a peace deal with Russia. We will basically become a neutral state. What Russia wants, nothing bad about it. Russia will have investments from the U.S. in Ukraine, partially. Partially, Russia will have investments with the U.S. and Russia in their territory with the minerals, and they will renegotiate. Russia was happy to negotiate those deals. Kirill Dmitriev was talking about this, that they're open to negotiate mineral deals with the United States. So we could have at least more than half of that $100 billion deal or $300 billion deal. We could have renegotiated for Russia and made it work for us and make it happen. And then we'd make a deal with Russia. We'll make a deal with the U.S. and everybody will be happy. That's what it was all about. It was the art of a deal. You cannot just look at this straightforward and this is just one path. No, it's different little path. You can take each one of them. It's politics. It's diplomacy. It's different checkboards around the table. You're playing all at the same time. That's what you have to understand. But the people in Ukraine, I'm sorry, they're dumb. They're dumb, stupid. They're not sovereign. They're not thinking about their country. If they were thinking about their country, this war would have never happened, and they would stop this war when Trump would become president. But they didn't. They're not thinking straight. And I'm just saying, this is one of the possibilities to have saved Ukraine and not learning to fully into this deal with the United States, like completely give it out, was a path to renegotiate with Russia, and we would be 50-50 or even 70 or 30, something. We would have good deals happen, and Trump would be happy, I think, in all this any case, if we would have done that also, because we'd have peace. If he was the one who brought peace into Ukraine, he would have saved his face by getting some money out of Ukraine and Russia for this war. And Ukraine will not look as stupid as it is right now, but as being the state that lost. But it is the state that lost. It's like Nazi Germany in 1945. It's being divided. But the problem is Ukraine still had a chance to negotiate. It didn't pick up a phone and call Putin.
Would the
Zelensky,
Rada even ratify this deal? Like, would the Rada accept this deal that Trump is doing? I mean, look, I'm just saying, all resources of Ukraine, oil, gas, minerals, paying back $100 billion that the U.S. effectively invested in order to use Ukraine as a battering ram. And then Trump comes in and says, all right, I want my money back.
Rada verified and basically supported a deal that was to sell off land, which is owned by the Constitution by Ukrainians, to foreigners. So this they're going to do also. Because everybody in that Rada, they want to save their life. And they're going to go they're going to Brussels, London, and to Washington. And they're the ones who control the situation in Ukraine. And for the last 10 years, Brussels, London, and Washington were controlling Ukraine. Not Moscow, not Beijing. If they're the ones responsible for this war. They're the ones who are backing this war and those people there. So this is it's very simple at the same time and complicated. Problem is you have to look further, not just think about it as a conspiracy theory, because it explains everything else. I was there, I saw it from my first hand how these people were selling off. I know how these people are selling off today. They don't care about Ukraine. If they did, they would have saved Ukraine long before, like Armenia saved itself with Nagorno Karabakh with Azerbaijan. They understood they could not win, so why continue this war? They saved their country from bloodshed, and they gave away those territories, and now they're living peacefully. That's what Ukraine could have done because you cannot fight a nuclear country. And with this deal with Trump, as I said, Trump, I think, pushed Ukraine to make a deal with Russia, and then with Russia make a deal with the United States on the minerals deal. But Ukraine did not support that deal. So basically, in this situation, Trump wins every time. If Russia would have made a deal for Ukraine, he would have won. If Ukraine made a deal, or was it what it's doing right now with Trump, he's going to win anyway. So it's like a win-win situation for the White House. They don't care for what's going to happen to Ukraine. Ukraine was the one who lured itself into this war. They agreed to this war by the former president and by today's illegitimate president Zelensky and dictator. So why not use it to basically get their money back? U.S. paid so much money, and that's it. I'm looking at this how America thinks. As a Ukrainian, of course, it's a tragedy. This war is a tragedy as for me as Ukraine. This Nazi terrorist regime in Ukraine is a tragedy. But this minerals deal, this giving away its resources. Ukraine did this a long time ago with BlackRock. Now they're just legitimate. They're basically renegotiating with the new administration who's going to re-own those natural minerals and resources in Ukraine today. Before it was BlackRock, now today is the new White House administration.
I just find it to be like, I can go back to William Burns' memo, for example, in 2008. And even Burns was like, if we offer Ukraine NATO membership, we're going to provoke a civil war. And they did it anyway. Like, meaning they went down a path. They knew what they were doing. They were willing to work with various groups because they had been agitating and getting those groups to be active in Ukraine in the very first place. I just find it a bit rich now that Trump is like, we want our money back. That's all. That was my main point.
It is rich, but I'm just saying you have to. I like to think about not from when you think about it from a perspective point of Ukraine. There's no Ukraine today. Ukraine is lost. Unfortunately, as Ukraine, I talked about it. If it was for Ukraine, we'd never have the civil war in Donbass. We would never have bombarded those people in the east of Ukraine, children. Thousands of children in Donbass were killed by Ukrainian artillery, and the world just was quiet about it. And we would have never had that. We could have had Minsk, even if we made mistakes, we could have had Minsk 1, Minsk, we could have signed those peace deals. We could have had Donbass as an autonomy. We could have had no coup in 2014, 13, 14, and have Crimea part of Ukraine. That's one thing. Second of all, Ukraine didn't do anything to keep those territories Ukrainian. Crimea, they never invested a dime into Crimea, into having Ukrainian schools being there. They didn't do anything. They didn't invest a dime to have East Ukraine like West Ukraine. They didn't do anything for that in the last 30 years of the so-called independence. Ukraine had its chance becoming an independent state. First time in so many hundred years, or more than 350 years, Ukraine got its independence. Before it was no Ukraine. It was just a part of called Hetmanshina. We had different groups of tribes running around, and they basically went under Russia back in 1654. That's what the reality is. Ukraine had a chance. It didn't use this chance. It used the chance to sell off Belarus, the same country. Look at it. It has peace. It has all the factories working. Yeah, maybe the GDP is not as in Belgium or somewhere else, but the people are happy. People are okay. People are living there. There's peace. There's no war. People are having jobs, having the factories, having everything else. Kazakhstan, between Russia and China, also peaceful, no problems. Yeah, there's some mistakes, but people are moving forward. They're developing. In Ukraine, the most prosperous land of the post-Soviet countries, didn't use this, had all the factories for making military missiles, tanks, airplanes, shipbuilding. We had everything. Everything's lost, sold out to whom? To the West. And today, for me, I see this mineral deal as just the last basically drop in this so-called bad Ukraine, Nazis in Ukraine. They're the ones who made this happen on themselves. And we're going to start over from scratch. We're going to start over from with a new Ukraine, whatever it's going to be. But we're going to work our way through it. That's their role. They made Ukraine be a useful idiot in the world politics and global politics. And that is the price they have to pay. Unfortunately, I cannot do anything. For the last 10 years, I fought for Ukraine. Today, this is what the reality is. I just want Trump to make peace. And then we can, for me at least, to come back to Ukraine and start over to do something. My hands are scratching just to do something and good for Ukraine. Come back and start over. That's what I want to do.
Let me ask you this. Are you hopeful in these negotiations based on what you've seen up to this point?
I know they're not going to take 1 day or 24 hours. That's what I understand. It's going to take up till the end of this year. We're going to see if these negotiations are going to be workable. Even if Trump says he's going to lead these negotiations in Ukraine and there's going to be changes in Ukraine happening, the U.S. is still going to coordinate some stuff on the side, not openly, not as an open, because diplomacy, good diplomacy, is always good behind closed doors and nobody knows about it. So that's what it has to be. And I think it's going to be until the end of the year we're going to understand what's going to happen to Ukraine. Within the next couple of months, we're going to see if Zelensky's going to be destroyed or free Ukraine, and if there's going to be a transitional government approved by both sides.
So you really do think that they're going to push him out somehow?
He is going to be pushed out.
He is clinging like grim death to that
He
position.
understands he's done. Because he understands as soon as he has to flee, with this mineral deal, I think he made an arrangement for himself to not be touched. He basically became untouchable if he agrees to sign this mineral deal. That's why he didn't go to Russia.
But he's trying to pass martial law thing. I mean, if he trying to make a deal to stay,
Look,
to leave, then why did he declare martial law for 30 days?
It's going to happen. It's going to happen really fast. Everybody thinks they're going to sign a deal, and it's going to be workable. Next morning, we're going to find out Zelensky fled Ukraine, or tried to flee Ukraine. Then again, the farmers in the Western Ukraine stopped him with pitchforks, and he's done somewhere in the trenches. Whatever, something like that's going to happen. No, that's how it works out. Yanukovych, for example, during the coup in 2014, signed a deal with the Europeans, guaranteeing his security and him having re-elections. The next day, he fled Ukraine because he was pushed. That's what may happen. The same thing may happen here, but it's going to be more bloody than it was in 2014. That's the case with Zelensky, and he understands that. So I believe that very soon Zelensky will not be in power in Ukraine. Very soon, hopefully, Ukraine will start its path for peace. How much Ukraine is going to be left, or how much we're going to be with Russia, or what's going to happen is. But the main thing is that we'll have to make a deal with Russia. We have to work with Russia in the future. We were one country. We can negotiate with Russia much easily without the U.S. and the West being involved. Bringing back normal Ukrainians, we'll sit down a couple of weeks on negotiations. We'll bring back to the table what needs to be done. We'll have a neutral Ukraine, working with Russia, with Belarus, with all the countries in the post-Soviet bloc. We will not go into NATO. We will start building. The first thing for the people, start building their lives back. If the people can have babies back, they can go to hospitals easily, they can start building their houses back, they can have a job. The men will not have to flee the military police and can go on the streets and do their work back.
Bring normal life. Yeah, you're just someone.
It will start bringing back. We had a civil war between the Red and the White Army in the beginning of the 20th century. Millions of dead. Millions. There were around 10 million dead. Within the couple of years, people got their lives back together, and together we became one country, the Soviet Union, which won the Second World War. Both those people who were the white and the red who fought between each other, they got together and won the Second World War. They became united. That's what's going to happen today. We're going to be united. The problem is the globalists are afraid of that because we're going to have more power than they think they're going to lose all this power with being on the side of Russia. But bring us back our country. That's what I want.
Andrii, from your mouth to God's ears. I look. I think this war is catastrophic, and I was, working in a radio station when it happened, and I could not believe it. Like I would tell you, no American thought it was going to happen. Like meaning at the station, they were like, "Okay, this is not going to happen." And when Putin went in, we were all shocked and had to all eat crow on air saying we did not think it was going to happen. And I had to really think to myself, okay, why? Like, why were all of us wrong? We're Americans. Nobody's at our gates. Nobody's at our border. Nobody's encroaching on our territory in that way. And so our point of view is skewed just by our reality in the sense. I think it's a catastrophe. It should have never happened. I feel culpable because my country was pushing for it. We had, regardless of the proxy, to me, the proxy is less relevant than the people who's using them because we're the ones that's using them to do a particular service. That's why I feel some kind of way about it, if that makes sense. From your mouth to God's ears, I hope you're right. I'm going to tell you Happy Easter. Andrii Telizhenko, he's a Ukrainian whistleblower, a former diplomat, and a good friend of the show. Thank you, Andrii, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless Jamal. All the best to you and happy Easter to everybody.
You have a good one, man. Thank you. All right, Andrii.